Hello everyone, it's Elena and it's been a hot minute since we've last seen each other on this channel. I used to upload a YouTube video every Sunday pre-COVID, but now it has kind of turned into uploading a YouTube video every once in a while. And I never really sat down to explain to you guys why that happened, so that's why I'm making this video now. I never intended for my uploads to become occasional instead of having an actual schedule, but it just happened for a multitude of reasons. But I think the biggest one is that I just wasn't doing very well, both mentally and physically. When COVID hit, I was still in England, but then Cambridge sent everybody home. So I went to Germany and I finished the academic year there, and then I had that year abroad at a German university. And that year abroad was basically a year of online teaching. I was just at home and I didn't make any new friends at my exchange university. On the one hand, that was because it was just Zoom university. It's very hard to get to know anybody in those circumstances, especially when you don't know anyone in the first place, because I was new to that university. But at the same time, I'm also someone who's very shy and introverted. So making friends is also not the easiest thing to me. So I think both of these things kind of came together and created this loneliness that I experienced during my year abroad. On the other hand, though, I was quite privileged in the sense that I didn't have to sit in, a student dormitory on my own. Instead, I was able to be at home with my family. So I at least had some support system around me. But that kind of went away when I went to Cambridge, because after my year abroad, I went back for my final year. My entire cohort at Cambridge had graduated by then, because a year abroad is optional at Cambridge. So I was the only one who did it, and all of my friends were gone. And I honestly didn't really make any new friends in my final year at Cambridge. I did my best to socialize. I did try to go to the in-person lectures that were offered. Most of my lectures were online, but there was one subject which did have also in-person lectures, or you could watch them online, whatever you preferred. And I also went to student society meetings, stuff like that. But I also quickly realized that people weren't taking the COVID guidelines that seriously. And I just did my best to be responsible. And it was difficult to, trust people that they were doing the same. And at that point, I was already diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. I was taking immunosuppressants, and I'm definitely not the case of the person who is at the biggest risk for COVID. Definitely not. I think there are people with significantly more severe conditions when it comes to, being at risk of having severe symptoms with COVID. But I was still doing my best to be very careful, keeping in mind also the fact that, I'm taking medication that does affect how my immune system works. I had some interactions with students where they very openly talked about not testing intentionally so that they don't end up having a positive test and having to do online classes because they prefer the in-person ones and stuff like that. And it just didn't feel like a very responsible environment to me. I'm not saying that most people did it or everybody did it, that's not the point, but it was definitely too many people. I mean, we also received multiple emails from the faculty because so many people went to lectures with symptoms. It was very noticeable. And that's why I wasn't that comfortable with going to these events. I mean, if you want to call a lecture an event, but student society meetings, stuff like that, where you'd normally relatively easily make friends, but it just didn't feel that responsible. But like I said, I'm also not the most sociable person naturally, so I think that also played into it. I did try signing up for Bumble BFF, which is like Bumble for dating, but it's instead for making friends. But that ended up going kind of nowhere as well. So I did try, but like I said, I think me also being the socially awkward person that I am didn't help things. But also the whole environment just didn't really help it either. So mentally, it was not really the best experience. I was so lonely that I actually cried a lot simply because I was sad, because I had kind of nobody. And I had never really experienced that. I mean, I have lived abroad since age 16. And I was never that sad to leave home. I mean, it's always hard to say goodbye, but I never had this feeling of I don't want to go to that place. But this year, when I went back to Cambridge after my winter break, I was crying at home and I was telling my mom, I don't want to go back. I am so miserable in that place. And it was just not going well. And a YouTube video is a lot of work. It's a lot more insight into your life than a short TikTok video or an Instagram story. and you have to be entertaining for so much longer, and I just didn't have the energy to do that. I filmed quite a few videos that ended up in the trash when I was editing them because they were terrible. I had the energy of a sleeping pill, and you could just tell that I wasn't doing well. And I don't want to give you these negative vibes, and I just didn't feel like I was in the right headspace to film videos. I was also not doing that well physically, which definitely played into the whole not feeling well in general. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, a form of rheumatism, which is also one of the reasons why I was extra careful with social distancing. I am grateful for the diagnosis because I was in quite a bit of pain for quite a while, to be fair. So when I finally got the medication for it, that helped a lot, but at the same time that medication was very strong. I ended up sleeping for almost an entire day a week because of the side effects, because it just knocked me out basically. And that hasn't really been resolved until like now. And I mean, obviously it didn't help things that, you know, when the side effects weren't really, you know, that manageable, I then moved back to the UK because I got that diagnosis during my year abroad, and then I went to the UK, you know, they're organizing things with getting to see a specialist because you can't get these medications prescribed by your GP without having seen a specialist first and stuff like that. All of that takes time and effort, and in the end, even though I had gotten in touch with my doctor prior to coming to the UK, I ended up running out of medication in the UK because it took that long to get an appointment with a specialist. So that wasn't great and didn't really help things either. And yeah, so that was a whole thing. I also had to go to Germany while I was back at Cambridge for surgery. Nothing that big, okay? We're not talking like open heart surgery or anything like that, no. We're talking wisdom teeth surgery, so all good. But like, it was still not fun to leave during an 8-week term, to be away for an entire week in which you're gonna look like a hamster and feel terrible, because that's what it's like to have wisdom teeth surgery. That was also preceded by weeks of, you know, toothache, and in the end not even being able to eat bread anymore because it hurt that much to chew. So yeah, that was not fun. And so overall, I just tried to focus my energy as much as I can on my degree because that is my #1 priority. And then I thought about what I can do with social media, and I think the most manageable things for me were TikTok and Instagram, because it's just not as much work to create that content as it is to make a YouTube video. YouTube remains my favorite platform because I like the content better, but it is also the content which takes the most time and the most energy to produce, and I did not have either during that time. And so when I felt somewhat okay, I did my best to film a YouTube video, and a few of these YouTube videos made it onto my channel. Most of them ended up in the trash because they were not great. And I honestly can't promise you that there are going to be regular uploads from now on. There definitely won't be. When I graduated from Cambridge, I was already in pain again because, like I said, this whole saga with figuring out the medication for my autoimmune disease wasn't really resolved at that point, and my autoimmune disease flared up again. So basically what happens is this disease kind of comes and goes in waves, you could say. So you don't really know how strong your disease will flare up the next time, and you can get really lucky and have years of remission where you're gonna feel like a healthy person, you might not need any meds, you're gonna be okay. But it can always come back. And it did come back, and it came back pretty strongly. I had inflammations at multiple joints and it was pretty painful, and I have been now in pain for like 10 weeks. So that's not exactly brilliant. And it took again time because it's not that easy to get appointments with specialists. And so now I have new medication, which actually seems to be working well. I don't have any side effects, which is amazing. And it does seem to be helping me. But my body obviously lost a lot of energy through that. And it will take a bit of time for me to regain that. And I also just need time to kind of recover from that because it was not easy and it wasn't cool, and the last 2 years haven't been that easy. Even though I understand that for a lot of people looking at my life objectively, you know, it looks pretty nice. I mean, I had a lovely room at Cambridge, definitely. I had multiple scholarships. I think objectively I was in an ideal situation. But even though I'm very grateful for all of these things, and it definitely did put me in a very privileged position, it still wasn't a great time for me. And I struggled a lot, and I just wasn't happy enough to give you positive vibes in my content in the form of YouTube videos, because, like I said, you need to keep up that happy face for a much longer time in a YouTube video, and I felt like I couldn't really do that. Whereas like for a TikTok, you can channel your energy. It will take you maybe, you know, 5 minutes to film it. Whereas a YouTube video, you will probably be filming for hours and hours. And then you cut that down into like a 10-minute or 20-minute video. So it's much more difficult there to actually, you know, stay somewhat happy when you're not that happy in real life. I should also be honest about the fact that I only told you about like 50%, I guess, of the medical stuff that matters. But the other 50%, which is something that really does affect me, especially emotionally right now, because I'm so scared of it. Unfortunately, I don't just have one diagnosis that makes my life more difficult. But I haven't talked that much about the other one simply because I haven't dealt with it emotionally yet. So I can be honest about the fact that there is something else that has been bothering me. I'm just not ready to talk about what it is and explain it and stuff, because I haven't dealt with it yet, and my rule for what I post on social media is I only post about it when I am okay with it, like I emotionally have dealt with it, and I haven't done that yet. I'm just not ready to talk about it, but I should be honest about the fact that there is something else. But yeah, okay, that sounded like really ominous and it's not very informative, I'm sorry. And I guess the last factor that does deserve an honorable mention, I guess, is that I also was a little bit fed up with social media, especially like in the past year, because I had some stress with my old management. I've left them now and I am with a much better management now. And I know for you as a viewer, the management is probably like just this mysterious thing that means nothing, aside from maybe the email address that content creators put in their info box for where to write if you want to collab with them. But actually the management is a big part of what you do as a content creator. You are constantly interacting with them, and when things aren't working out with them, that is not great for you and it's annoying. And I think my negative feelings that I associated with them kind of also spilled over into the idea of making content in general, because it's also interconnected. And it was also just stressful behind the scenes, because my management ended up being more stress for me than they were being helpful, and that's not how it's meant to be. So we ended up parting ways, and that was definitely the best decision. But it was a difficult decision nonetheless for me, because I struggled to really put my foot down and be like, okay, now it's enough. I'm not someone who does that easily, and yeah, it's kind of difficult for me to do that, because I always feel like I'm disappointing people. But at the same time, you shouldn't be afraid to say no, because if you're saying yes to someone else, but that means you're saying no to yourself, maybe you should rethink that, because you shouldn't accommodate everyone but yourself. So yeah, had to learn that one the hard way, I guess. But yeah, if you want to boil it down to one thing, I think the main reason is I just wasn't very happy. And I want to create happy content. I want to make you feel good when you watch my content, and I didn't really think that I could do that. And I've always said I'm not going to post something when I don't feel like I have something to say, and when I do have something to say, I want it to be something good. And I just didn't really have that much good things to give out, because I just didn't feel that positive. So in the coming weeks, I'm gonna do my best to recover, first of all, and then I will do my best to go back to making content. And that might only be in October, when I will be back at it with studying, because yes, I will be continuing to be in education. But maybe before. I don't want to make a promise that I can't keep, so I'm just gonna keep it vague for now, but I wanted to explain things. And the last thing that I also wanted to explain, because I got quite a few questions about it, very understandably so, was language. So I'm gonna keep my YouTube channel in English, but I have switched my Instagram to German and my TikTok as well, and I'm gonna keep it that way. I really love making content in German as well. When I was younger and I started my YouTube channel and all of my other social media, I only talked in English because I thought English is so much cooler and everything. And now I really enjoy the option of kind of connecting a bit more with my culture by speaking the language, because there's so many references that I can make in German that I just can't make in English. Some of my jokes wouldn't make sense. The cultural references to songs or something wouldn't make sense to my English audience. And I like speaking my native language too. So I'm gonna keep those in German. Maybe at some point I will open a German YouTube channel as well, but that would be a different channel. Not this one. This one will stay in English. But I think I should first focus on actually, you know, keeping this channel up to date before starting a new project like that, because right now I haven't even, you know, done my duty here. But yeah, if you are one of my followers who does not speak German, I'm very sorry to lose you on Instagram and TikTok, but also I completely understand. But thank you for following along while I did content in English there. And I hope you're gonna stay here. But also if you don't, that's fine too. I can also understand that. I mean, I haven't really been here a lot. But yeah, thank you to everyone who is still here. And I am very sorry for not having been here that much. And I hope to see you soon. Bye!